You know that one early 2000s action cartoon about the kid with the first name that makes him sound like a regular kid and the last name that makes him sound like some kind of superhero? That's right, we're talking about Kim Possible. It's Disney versus Cartoon Network versus Nickelodeon. Okay, this isn't going to be like an in-depth analysis or anything. I'm just taking a look at the first seasons of each of these shows because they're all super nostalgic for me and I like talking about cartoons. So let's do it. Danny Phantom, Season 1. And I've already talked a lot about Danny Phantom, so I'll try to be brief. I really love this show. Spider-Man if he was also a ghost. It's pretty self-explanatory. Danny comes from a family of ghost hunters. An accident causes him to get ghost powers, and he fights ghosts and has to go to high school. The conflict of the episodes always come from a combination of him having to balance his normal life and his life fighting ghosts. There's lots of really great character dynamics. We got the main trio of Danny, Sam, and Tucker, and the male lead, female friend, and black friend thing that I've talked about before. Parents are hilarious, and that dynamic is really fun because he has to hide his powers from them while they are hunting ghosts. And one of the really fun things about this show is all the villains. Every episode we get a new comic book style villain and it's hit after hit. I equate the first season of Danny Phantom to like the original like 12 or so issues of Amazing Spider-Man, like the comics when Stan Lee was writing it, where every issue you get a new iconic bad guy. Danny Phantom has a really interesting first season because it's not a traditional overarching story. It's more just kind of general progression. It's actually very well paced. It just doesn't have like a big finale or anything. It's more just like, here's Danny developing as a superhero. I'll talk about a couple of the things that I really like. Halfway through the season, Danny's sister Jazz finds out about his powers and then starts to help him by hiding his powers from their parents. Also at some point, this one girl, Valerie, gets completely changed and they make her like this anti-hero badass villain, and it's really cool. There's little things like that where like they'll take a character and then like do a few episodes where they really like develop them over the season, and it's not like a main arc or anything, but it's just like the character dynamics and status quo is constantly shifting. Episode 7, I think, we meet our main villain Vlad, who has the same powers as Danny, but he's had them for years, so he's already mastered them. What's great about this is it's one, a good twist on like the Venom concept where it's like the evil version of the main character because they already are way advanced for him, so Danny's like a huge underdog. It's also great because Vlad has a bunch of powers that Danny hasn't even developed yet. It's really cool to show Danny's growth up to this point and his potential growth for the future. What's also great about him is he has a personal connection to Danny's family. It's very Spider-Man, like Harry Osborn and Norman Osborn, Green Goblin. It's very much in the same vein of that kind of thing, where Vlad used to know Danny's parents in college and stuff like that. What's cool about Vlad is they use him very sparingly throughout the season. You know, whenever he does show up, you know it's going to be a big deal. Another thing I like about this season is most of the time we get a brand new villain every week, but later on in the season, we often get episodes where the villains return. But what's great about Danny Phantom is that they never use the same villain the same way twice. Whenever they do bring back a past villain, it's always in a new context or a new situation. Sometimes Danny has to team up with some of his villains to fight worse villains. Sometimes it's multiple of Danny's villains teaming up to fight him.
Pretty much everyone who hates me all at one table. Just like high school.
The season finale of this season is just like a random episode where it's like, here's another villain that he fights, and it's like fine. I feel like this happens a lot with cartoons where sometimes they just like make 50 episodes and then they just kind of split them into seasons later. One of the things I really like about Danny Phantom is that his world is structured to make it the most difficult for him. Things are always happening to him. He has very little control over his own life. And even when he does get a victory as Danny Phantom often has to face consequences for it. Danny's always the underdog, which is great. He's not popular. He's not even smart. Peter Parker at least was smart. Danny's like a C student at his best. His parents are super embarrassing when they're not trying to kill him. He gets bullied all the time, and every ghost that he ends up fighting wants to kill him. Every episode of this season is based around making Danny's life difficult. It's really compelling because you feel bad for this kid and you want him to succeed. It's exactly why I like Spider-Man. He has to face normal problems and be a superhero all on top of that.
Great. My folks are splitting up, my sister's a basket case, and I'm going to ghost jail.
So what's the sitch? Call me, beat me if you wanna reach me.
Kim Possible is a Disney show about teenage girl who's also a super spy. Gotta save the world and make it back in time for dinner. Kim Possible's pretty good. I enjoy it.
I'm your basic average girl, and I'm here to save the world.
She most certainly is not your basic average girl. She's smart, she's pretty, she's popular, and she's a good super spy, and her parents are super supportive. Kim Possible takes more of a Superman or like Wonder Woman type of approach to a hero. She's more of someone to look up to than she is someone that's relatable, which is great. I'm all for girls having a badass super spy to look up to. And it actually is kind of refreshing to see someone who so casually saves the world. She doesn't have a secret identity. Everyone basically knows that she's a super spy. Her parents are super supportive of it. Her mom's a fucking brain surgeon and her dad's a rocket scientist because of course they are. The relatability comes in with my main man, Ron Stoppable. He's the goofy, nerdy sidekick one who's there to be relatable. They also got the hacker kid sidekick who does tech. Kim has a really cool gadget called a cell phone. And, you know, it's pretty high tech for 2002. Wait a minute. He's got a black friend, a white male, and a girl. Is this the same dynamic from Danny Phantom? I guess it's different enough because you got your girl as your lead instead of the male. So maybe I'll give it a pass. But wait a minute, there's an episode where Ron and Kim switch bodies. Kim Possible's secretly sexist. I've cracked a code, it counts, I'm counting it. Take that, Disney, I've found you out. Checkmate. First season of Kim Possible, not a whole lot crazy happens. Mostly just standalone episodes. You get a few recurring villains every now and then, but most of the time they're more or less do kind of the same thing in each episode. Your main villains are your Dr. Draken, John DiMaggio, and Shigo, who is really cool and has a great design, and she's really hot. What sucks is that they never really end up succeeding in anything, and so they never really come off as a huge threat. The show manages to still kind of work though, because the characters are really fun and so well written and performed by all the actors. As unthreatening as Dr. Draken is, I can't deny that I enjoy every second that he's on screen, but I do kind of feel gypped that like the show never really makes the stakes feel all that high. The show does pick up a little bit about like episode 13 or 14. They do more episodes where Kim makes a mistake and has to like actually face consequences. They do one where like a couple of the villains team up, and that one's kind of cool. There's one with cloning that's really fun.
What have we learned?
No cloning.
I guess the main idea here is that with our main two heroes, Kim and Ron, the girl's in charge and so they always succeed. Where Dr. Draken and Shigo, the man's in charge and that's why they always fail. Which I guess is fine, but then it's like, why not just put Shigo in charge and make an actually compelling story where you're not sure if Kim's actually going to succeed or not. The show is actually really funny and very well written. There's a lot of really fun high school stuff. Kim's a cheerleader and that's why she's good at spying. This is the main bitchy cheerleader character, Bonnie, that's it. She's basically Cordelia from Buffy, but it's like, hey, if it ain't broke. She's really fun and a great dynamic. Patrick Warburton plays one of the teachers and it's amazing. Overall, the show's actually like really good and fun. As I said, it is kind of refreshing to see a more casual take on the whole like, oh no, the world's gonna end and like that kind of stuff. Kim and Ron have like a great dynamic and it's just really fun to see them interact. That's kind of the draw of the show, is these characters are really, really strong and it's just fun to see them in different situations. You don't really need much of an overarching plot, and the season doesn't really have much of an overarching plot either. The season finale is just a regular episode. As I said, I've only really seen the first season. I know later on they do a couple TV movies that have like a little more consequences. The show does like wrap up its story in like the last season, and I think there's a crossover with Lilo and Stitch at some point. But as a first season, the show is entertaining and it has great characters, so I can't really complain too much. Yeah, and I do wish that the stakes were a little bit higher. The characters actually felt like they were ever in danger. Alright, moving on. Ben 10. Alright, Ben 10, Cartoon Network's big money maker. In the vein of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Transformers, it's a show designed to sell action figures. Luckily, it's not a bad one. Ben 10 is about a kid named Ben 10 who gets a watch that makes them turn into 10 different aliens. Every alien is an action figure. Buy yours today.
Battle the evil Kevin 11 with your Ben 10 alien powers.
Plot is he's on a road trip with his grandpa and his cousin Gwen for the summer, and they just go on adventures and fight aliens. And it's pretty fun. Obviously this is more different than Danny Phantom or Kim Possible. The show has a different format and a different story arc to it. He's not even in school for any of it. Oh boy. That Sharpie is hitting the brain cells. And so it's this family road trip show where Ben fights aliens and his grandpa and Gwen help him, kind of. The dynamic here is like totally different, as I said before. It's more just about Ben and Gwen and their relationship with their grandpa. And it feels very genuine and very much like a real family. Ben and Gwen fight all the time because they're about the same age and they hate each other because it's like a sibling kind of thing. They feel like actual family members that don't get along. Some of the time it comes off as like kind of annoying that these kids are fucking assholes, but that's kind of the point, and it's also like pretty accurate to how kids are, so I can't really fault the show for that. The main arc of the first season is mostly just standalone episodes with a few hints of building up the big bad of the season finale, Vilgax, or as I like to call him, Cthulhu Thanos. The point is, he's a big bad space boss. When you get to the end, you gotta punch him real hard. So the big plot device of the series is the Omnitrix, which allows Ben to transform into 10 different aliens with a cool anime-inspired transformation sequence for each one. What I really like about the Omnitrix as a plot device, at least in this season and most of the original series, is that one, Ben's an idiot 10-year-old, and so he usually picks the wrong alien for whatever situation he gets himself into. He's got 10 different aliens with completely different power sets, and usually there's one that's like obviously perfect for the job. But Ben, because he's a 10-year-old, he only picks the 3 coolest ones: Heat Blast, Diamond Head, and Forearms for every episode. You're stuck with this protagonist that's an idiot, which is kind of annoying, but also makes for a better story because it makes it harder for Ben to succeed. Second, even when Ben does pick the correct alien for the job, the Omnitrix is often malfunctioning and glitching, and either he gets stuck with one that he didn't want, or something else goes wrong. It won't work at all, or he changes into one that's completely useless for the job and it can't change back. And third, when all the stars align and Ben manages to pick the right alien and the watch functions properly, it has a time limit. So even when things are going well, Watch will turn him back into regular old 10-year-old kid at the least helpful moment. I really got rid of some of this stuff in like the later seasons and especially in like the later series, but I really liked the first season because of this. It always made Ben feel like the underdog, and he was always fighting this uphill battle. There were actual like limits to his powers. He has this cool thing where he can do basically anything, but only for a short amount of time. It really grounds him and makes him more relatable and makes him feel like he's actually in danger. This season, as I said before, is mostly just standalone episodes. I know later on in the series there's more overarching kind of storylines and stuff like that. The season does set up a few things that I know come back later. We first meet Kevin 11, who's like the Venom to Ben's Spider-Man. He becomes a more important character much later on. There's an episode where Gwen gets luck powers, and I know that comes back. I know she gets magic like way later in the later series. And also throughout the first season, they drop hints that their grandpa Max knows more about aliens than he's letting on. It's very Shepherd book style from Firefly. Just get little hints that his backstory is more interesting than what we thought it was. He ain't your regular grandpappy. He ain't your grandpappy's grandpappy, I'll tell you that much. And I know they do more with that later on as well. The season is short. It's only 13 episodes. You don't have to trudge through too many standalone episodes before the story actually kicks in. The flip side of that is the story really only kicks in the last episode, so that's kind of a give and take. For the most part, most of the standalone episodes of this season are completely forgettable. There's one with the clown alien that's like really creepy, and that one stood out to me as like, whoa, this is like dark and weird. But for the rest, it's like he's gotta fight an alien bee There's an alien bee. Ben's got to fight it. The show's a little difficult to compare to the other two because it's not set in high school and it has a completely different dynamic, which is kind of good. But I do kind of wish that there was more with like a secret identity kind of a thing. Gwen and his grandpa find out that he has powers in the first episode, so like there's no one for him to really hide from. Most of the characters they meet, it's inconsequential whether they find out or not. Most of the time they don't find out because they're idiots. But even when they do, it's like we're never seeing what's-his-face from Hicktown ever again. So it doesn't matter. It's something I wish that they did a little more of because that's a trope I really enjoy from superhero stories. And since this show is like so heavily influenced from that kind of thing, that I wish there was more of it. Yeah, let's talk about the toy thing again. So yeah, those 10 different toys, we just gotta get all the toys. It's kind of evident that that's like the case, especially like later on when they're like, well, we already made 10 toys, so like, what do we do for more seasons? Just give them more aliens. Give them like 15 aliens, it's fine. It's like, well, it wasn't the point that he was Ben 10 because he had 10 different aliens that he could change into. Just make more. Fuck it. Who cares? We gotta make toys and sell them. Later on, they do Ben 10 Alien Force and Omniverse and another one. I didn't watch too much of those shows, but they're of note because they skip a few years and now Ben is a little more established. And he has 10 new aliens, so you gotta buy fucking 10 more toys, and they just go from there. I think there's a season where they like combine aliens, so it's like even more like crazy. I kind of really liked the first series where like Ben didn't really know how to be a hero that well. He wasn't that good at being Ben 10. He made the wrong choices. He had to face more consequences, and I just find that more relatable and more engaging. So comparing these shows, obviously I've only looked at the first season of each of these, but this is just kind of general impressions of what I liked about the show. Honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed all of these shows. It was really nice to see all these superhero-like original property action cartoons that were all happening when I was a kid. And it was really fun to have these characters that were kids that had superpowers or could fight crime or do these really cool things. And it was just really fun to see that kind of stuff on TV as a kid. These shows all have a very different approach too. Danny Phantom goes traditional superhero, Kim Possible does a new take on like the super spy, and Ben 10 is a family road trip show. I do want to talk about like general kind of plot progression because this is very important to me. I want to say Danny Phantom has the best pacing for the first season of any of these shows. Sure, it doesn't boil down to a big grand finale with super fight where he's blowing up mountains or whatever. That Ben 10 finale is actually really fun though. But it does manage to actually develop the characters throughout the season. And that's something we don't see a lot of in the other shows. Ben 10 obviously does get better at using his watch throughout the series, and you know, he learns a lesson every now and then about how Gwen isn't totally useless or whatever. Over on Kim Possible, they basically stay the same. It's really more of like a sitcom style show where like basically everything stays more or less the same every episode. For that kind of show, the characters have to be really, really strong. And they are. Characters. Kim Possible has great fucking characters. So does Danny Phantom. Sam and Tucker are mostly kind of useless, where Ron is like in the forefront of all of Kim's adventures. So I'll give Kim Possible the edge on core cast. But I'm going to give the edge for villains to Danny Phantom because they have more fun, more recurring villains that are used in different ways. Kim Possible uses their villains in basically the same ways each time, and Ben 10 has to punch aliens. But really all three of these shows are good, and it really comes more down to personal preference, which you like. At some point I might make a follow-up to this video where I do an in-depth breakdown of all three series, but we'll save that for another day. I mostly just wanted to talk about these shows because they're fun and nostalgic for me, and I like talking about Danny Phantom. But the main thing I wanted to bring up, Ben 10 got 4 seasons, 2 live-action TV movies, and several series after the original series wrapped, continuing Ben's adventures. Kim Possible got 4 seasons, 2 animated TV movies, a crossover with Lilo and Stitch, and a live-action TV movie that comes out today. Hopefully, if I finish this video on time. It looks about as good as the Ben 10 live-action movies, which is to say, not good at all.
Ben Tennyson's got to be Ben Tennyson again. It's your responsibility.
It's Lee Majors, the $6 million band.
But the fact is that Disney's clearly aware that Kim Possible is still a valuable IP, and I'm happy that they want to do at least something with it still. Because the characters are great and the fan base is clearly there. And that brings me to Danny Phantom. With 3 seasons and no revivals, where's our live-action movie? It's about time. Kim Possible got one. Ben 10 got two. So it's time. It's time to bring Danny Phantom back. Call up KJ Appa. He's probably not busy. Get him up. Get him on the phone. Make it live action. Danny Phantom. Do it. Come on, Nickelodeon. The fan base that we're kids are all adults now, so we can buy shit. We can buy all the Danny Phantom merchandise you'll make. Kim Possible's out. Make a Danny Phantom thing. These shows are all great. We want more of them all. Come on, Nickelodeon. Don't just make SpongeBob forever. Make a new thing. That was all I wanted to say. If Kim Possible can get a shitty live action movie, how hard is it for you guys to make one? You made a Last Airbender movie. What the fuck was that? Danny Phantom would be way easier to do. That's it. That's all I gotta say. This video was brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is a website that helps you make your own website. So if you got a business and you need a website for it, Squarespace is the one to do. With hundreds of thousands of even dozens of templates to choose from, Squarespace will make your website look like a professional website. Go to squarespace.com/peanutbuttergamer to get 30% off your first website. If you use the link in the description to get the Squarespace website, you'll have a website brought to you by Squarespace. Thanks for watching, and if you like this, click to subscribe and do the bell thing. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by Squarespace.